No beer?
No beer.
All right.
There we
There
go.
we go. Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in victory lane, non-playoff driver, gets the second win at Talladega in the last 11 now. Brad Keselowski coming home third. William Byron locking himself into the next round of the playoffs comes home third. Did I say Keselowski was third? He was second. Larson gets a finish on a super speedway track. Fourth, Eric Jones fifth. Biggest story of the day, though, was that massive pileup on the backstretch, turn three. 28 cars, I believe, involved in this wreck, plus the carnage afterward in NASCAR's decision. Once again, Elton Sawyer's getting interviewed by the media for their handling of cars that were towed, cars that were brought to pit road, and then they went back under caution when they were under red flag. But then the pace car didn't go because they weren't all done cleaning up, and they didn't want to put it back under red. And lot of, once again, storylines coming out, not to mention Keselowski and Buescher's cars missing the mandated new part on the roof that,
Yep.
they definitely would have failed inspection after the race if they got inspected, if they won. A lot of drama from Talladega, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the playoffs, the four guys that we kind of expected to be out are currently out, and we have one race to go with the Charlotte Roval. But first off, Nick, what'd you think of that Talladega race and the finish?
Honestly, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I know a lot of people didn't. I know a lot of NASCAR gambling Twitter says they didn't. But I mean, we saw four wide for 8 minutes. I don't care if they were stuck in place. I've never seen that at Talladega. Never seen four wide for 8 solid minutes. That was pretty entertaining. And look, these guys were trying. It's not like they were just riding around. They were trying. We saw a wreck trying to get stage points. We saw, drivers definitely getting a little intense, just trying to grab points. And sure, it wasn't maybe the exact style of super speedway racing we all love, and it wasn't my favorite of all of the super speedways by any means. I'm not saying it was one of the best super speedway races I've ever seen, not even close. But it was fine. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. And, obviously my attention is divided with NFL right now while football season's on, and that being the main part of my job. But I definitely got to watch the race, and I enjoyed it. I thought they were battling pretty hard and looked pretty intense out there. So, it definitely is not the style of super speedway racing we had prior to the next gen car. And I do like the previous style better back, in the Gen 6 car, and certainly in the Car of Tomorrow era. I know you liked the tandem, but even before that, early Car of Tomorrow era, late Gen 4 era, or 5, or whatever it was. I guess Car of Tomorrow was 5, late Gen 4 era. All that stuff was really good. But, this one, I don't love this style of super speedway racing that this car produces, but of the races of this style, I thought this was arguably my favorite.
I thought it was a good race. I didn't have many bets. I did some DFS lineups, but nothing major. I just sat back and enjoyed the race, and the four wide. I understand why people are upset, but to me, it's a lot more fun watching that where these drivers could potentially make a mistake, because at the end of the day, what it came down to is they were once again fuel saving, and that's just the result of the stages and everything else that comes with these races. So they're dealing with what they have to do, and it was once again, like we talked about last week, nobody wanted to make a mistake. It was outside of the obviously the massive pileup happened, and that was the big wreck. But I think with the end and the reason that it finished the way it did was because Byron wasn't going to sit there and wreck out. Larson wasn't going to sit there and wreck out. Nobody else was going to make a move. They just wanted to sit there and finish the race. They didn't care about winning. They wanted to get those points. Denny Hamlin had, once again, a questionable strategy before that final pileup. Obviously, it worked out because we had that huge wreck. But if we wouldn't have had that huge wreck, if it would have went to, the end, he was sitting in 30th, and he was going to be, 15, 20 points out of the playoffs once again. But now he's sitting good, and like I said, most of these guys are sitting good. But one stat after Talladega that I found, I cannot believe it, and I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. It has now been over 50 races. There's only been one winner from the pole. That is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
It's pretty crazy, and these books overreact to qualifying, and Yeah, they always shorten the pole sitter, but we're getting to the point where you can't really bet the pole sitter post practice and qualifying, and they don't win anyway. So
Yeah. It was funny seeing the lines change after qualifying at Talladega because I mean we both know qualifying doesn't matter at Talladega. Nothing really matters. And then all of a sudden these lines are all shifting. And it's like, okay. Speaking of stupid strategy, Anthony Alfredo, our boy, Fast Pasta, had an absolutely idiotic strategy. I won't call it idiotic strategy, just the execution of it was downright bad because they pitted with what they thought was 3 to go. It was actually 2 to go. Pits were close, so he ended up a lap down. Wasn't enough carnage to get him. I think he might have ended up on the lead lap, but I don't even think so. No, he was still 1 lap down at the end.
Yeah, because Suarez ended up getting the free pass 2 laps down and then put him on the Anthony Alfredo lap, and then there was not another caution for a long time after that, and so more guys went a lap down, and Alfredo never got his lap back.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of running out of talent, Daniel Suarez had to serve a pass-through penalty at the beginning of the race. He's getting lapped by the field.
First of all, before we even get to Daniel Suarez running out of talent, if you're Daniel Suarez's team, what the fuck are you doing? Why do you even get to the point where you have to give him a drive-through penalty? You screwed your own driver by doing some stuff to the car that you shouldn't have done, and now you're putting your driver in a hole, and then the driver makes a mistake trying to make up for it. The crew's, the team's fault. It's just a colossal failure all around, and we're talking a guy who's, right on the bubble of the cut line, and now he's 20 points back because of all-around stupidity from that team, including the driver. But he wouldn't have had to do that if the team hadn't messed up in the first place.
Yeah. I was honestly surprised. Trackhouse seems to do a little bit of off-the-wall things. I was surprised that they didn't have Chastain come down pit road with him, so he wasn't out alone by himself. But yeah, I don't know if his spotter cleared him or what, but that was the dumbest thing he could have done. I understand he didn't want to lose the draft again, but that was dumb. Outside of that, Ryan Blaney kind of got saved by that pile up there. He didn't have a finish 39th, but he's still sitting good. It's gonna be an interesting final race here at the Charlotte Roval. With the added track layout, I guess is the way to put it. And like I said, there's really no surprises with this round. We might be heading into the round of 8 with all of the expected guys. As much as this round was hyped up as a chaos round, it's not really producing that. Even though, can you believe that through the first 2 races we haven't had a playoff winner yet?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's insane, right? Like Kansas, we had Ross Chastain, non-playoff driver, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I mean, I guess it makes sense for Talladega, but I certainly didn't think it would be both Kansas and Talladega. And if you think about it, we had Chris Buescher at Glen. So 3 of the 5 playoff races, which is what we saw in 2022. I think 3 of the first 5 races were non-playoff driver winners. It was like Bubba, Chris Buescher, and Eric Jones or something in 2022, and I think all of them were non-playoff, if I remember correctly. There could be maybe a little bit of incorrectness there, but you get the idea. It's second out of 3 years in the next-gen era that's all 3 of them were not in the play. I take that back. No, all 3 were not in the playoffs, and then Tyler Reddick was eliminated in the round of 16 and won the first race in the round of 12. Mm-hmm. So he was a non-playoff driver, right? Like he was in the playoffs, but not in the playoffs when he won. So the first 4 races of the 2022 playoffs were won by, at the time, non-playoff drivers, although one of them made the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Which, just underscores the importance of having to run well in the regular season and getting that win in. That's why we see the Austin Dillon moves and everything. Another guy that looked pretty solid after his first super speedway race this year. Nobody trusted to really run with him, but SVG was running up front. He was running with the leaders. I wasn't really expecting that. And I was reading some pre-race stuff on him. He didn't think that anybody was going to work with him because, the yellow thing on the bumper, but he looked good out there.
Yeah, I think he got to the front when some of the pit stops started, and that's when he was at the front. But he totally held his own. I don't think he was, at the lead just based off of taking the lead. I think it had to do a little bit with fuel strategy and stuff, where a group of cars pitted and then he found himself at the front of the group of cars that didn't pit. But hey, you still led some laps at Talladega. You held your own, finished 15th. So a really nice job in Talladega, his second super speedway race. Third. He ran Talladega earlier this year and Daytona earlier this year. Obviously, he ran Atlanta. I'm not counting that as a super speedway. But in his third super speedway race to lead some laps, and he's definitely improving and learning at this track type.
Mm-hmm. And once again, Michael McDowell on the pole at super speedway. What is that? 5 of the 6 this year. The other one, Daytona 500, he started second. They were
Joey Logano cheated with the glove. Otherwise, McDowell probably would have won all 6 poles.
That's true. He was 0.2 of a second faster than everybody else. I don't know what the hell they'd done to that car for super speedways, but holy shit.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
There's no way that thing's legal. Like, just craziness.
Yeah.
But now, we got Talladega out of the way. We got Atlanta out of the way. We got the Charlotte Roval, but we're in now the final stretch of the season with good racing left. Kind of like, this is where we separate the men from the boys. This is where we're really going to determine a champion. And we got one race left in this round of 12, Charlotte Roval. William Byron's the only one that's locked in. Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, pretty much sitting good. And then, we got Hamlin, Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott in the standings. They're in right now. Logano's 13 back. Daniel Suarez is 20 back. Cindric 29 and Briscoe 32 back. So probably, a win and in for Cindric and Briscoe. But we saw at Watkins Glen, Blaney lap 1 got wrecked out. So like any of these guys, I'd say, like I said, Bell and Larson are probably in.
Yeah,
but,
they're fine.
Hamlin, any of these other guys, lap 1 issue, we could see them fall out. But, it's certainly not expected, but it's possible, I'd say.
Yeah, and then obviously it's a very interesting situation just because Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick are 1 point apart. And then, Blaney's only 11 ahead of them. And then Bowman's 1 more point ahead, and then Hamlin's 4 more points ahead. So it's pretty close between all of them. So they all need to be thinking points.
I say, do you stage race here, or do you go for the win?
But so they all, I think, need to be thinking points. But the problem is whoever finishes at the bottom of the points of them exposes themselves to a Briscoe, Cindric, Suarez, or Logano win, right?
Yeah.
Knocking them out. So it's a interesting spot. I think if you're Denny Hamlin, you're probably feeling good just grabbing points, because if you grab points, you're not going to be the bottom of that group. So I think Denny Hamlin absolutely is points racing. Probably Bowman and Blaney. But, I mean, Reddick and Elliott, you almost could they kind of have to points race too, because if you get one of them ahead of the other, then you're good, and you're only 1 point apart. I don't know. It's a really weird spot they're in. All I know is if those 5 points race, that opens up a lot of potential for the Suarez's, Cindrics, and Briscoes, who are all pretty good at road courses, and Logano has a road course win in his past, right? So I wouldn't put it past any of those guys to find a way to win. Of course, there's going to be a whole lot of other drivers trying to win as well. Truex, Gibbs, obviously Dinger, things like that. So Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch. There's going to be a lot of guys that are good at road courses that are going to be trying to win as well. And then Byron, right? Byron's going for the win. Probably have to assume Larson and Bell are going for the win, knowing they'll be locked in almost certainly after the first stage. So it's a spot where these guys, Hamlin, Bowman, Blaney, Reddick, and Elliott, they can probably comfortably points race, knowing there's a lot of other guys that'll still be going for the win that are very quality. But if it looks like Suarez, Cindric, Briscoe are a class of the field type thing, maybe they have to change strategy and try to, if they feel like they're class of the field type as well, maybe change strategy and go for the win.
Yeah, I have a feeling a lot of these crew chiefs are going to be going back and forth quite a bit on exactly what to do to tackle this race, because it does. It opens up the door. You can points race for stages or go for the win, and it's going to be a completely different outcome depending on what you take. And not to mention, like you said, going back to Watkins Glen, Chastain had the best car at Watkins Glen. Yeah. If they bring that same car for Suarez here, there's no. We've seen Suarez win a road course before, so we could see Trackhouse bring the heat and Suarez have the race winning car. It honestly, this week looking ahead at the Charlotte Roval, I'm very hesitant to bet. I had a very light betting card at Talladega. I had no interest in it. And now with this and not only all these different strategies, but the track changes, it's another one of those weeks where I'm just sitting back and I'm like, I don't know. Like, obviously, I'm gonna run my stuff. I'm gonna do what I do every week, but my level of confidence compared to other races is I can't. It's nowhere near where it typically is. I'll say that.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially with some of these drivers, but I do think the one thing we know is who's going to be going for the race win, right? We know William Byron is. We know Ross Chastain is. We know Buescher is. We know Gibbs, Truex, etc., Kyle Busch, Allmendinger, all those guys are going for the race win. So that makes it a little bit easier because we know those guys will be on the optimal strategy. So I think that makes it easy. It's these playoff drivers and maybe some of these, I wouldn't say bubble drivers, like Briscoe's going for the win. Cindric's going for the win. Suarez probably going for the win. Logano probably going for the win. It's really just the points racing drivers that could deviate strategy or not deviate strategy from Elliott through Hamlin that makes it tough to bet them.
I could even see Logano going for points though. He's only 13 back.
There's an opportunity. There's definitely an opportunity there.
Yeah, it's just I hope NBC or USA or who's ever broadcasting this week, I think it's NBC, is prepared because this is the perfect opportunity to have playoff drama without like it being a questionable race. Like road courses are tracks of talent. This is a perfect opportunity to be like, they just have to do a good job of explaining it. Don't just have the points as they run. Like the announcers have to be like, this is what's happening. This is why, Tyler Reddick isn't going for the win. He's going for points, a situation like that or whoever. I'm just, throwing a name out there.
Exactly. Yep. And I'm fine with points as they run once all the strategy is kind of played out, right? Then it's like, we need to see those standings, those live standings to know who needs to grab one more spot or two more spots or not lose a spot. Then it becomes really important. But when the strategy is just kind of mixed up, it doesn't – who cares if Joey Logano's in right now if he still has to pit, Because he's going to have to pit, so he won't be in after that. That kind of stuff I think is a little less pointless to have points as they run. And instead, like you said, having the commentators explain to us the scenarios and do it – that way instead of a graphic of points as they run. But once all the the main strategies played out, I need those points as they run for those last stint there.
Yeah, once it's final and they say everybody's pitted, everybody's good to go to the end. That's where points as they run. Keep it. Do not take those off the screen.
Exactly.
And we'll watch them. Looking further at the full point standings, Chris Buescher is now 2 points of Ross Chastain for 17th in points, as Chastain finished 40th at Talladega, where Buescher finished 17th. He also won the first stage. So getting close there. Bubba Wallace is right there also, only 23 points back. And then Kyle Busch is, way back from them. But something to keep an eye on there as we look at more than just the top playoff standings there. And then, the rest of I guess once the 4 more get eliminated, then we can talk about the others here. Let's see here. Eric Jones gets top 5 finish. First top 5 for Legacy Motor Club since they switched to Toyota, which I was kind of surprised.
Jones had the 8th in the opening race of the season, the Daytona 500. John Hunter Nemechek was 7th. And the only other top 10s they've had since then were John Hunter Nemechek's 6th at Bristol and John Hunter Nemechek's 8th at New Hampshire. So no top 5s. Eric Jones picks up his 2nd top 10 of the season. Legacy's first top 5, like you said, since they switched to Toyota. And it's interesting, while John Hunter Nemechek leads Jones in top 10s, Jones, of course, still has the points lead over John Hunter Nemechek. Even though Jones hasn't had quite as much upside, he's been so much more consistent, finishing in the mid-teens a lot more than John Hunter Nemechek, that kind of thing. So that's why Jones has a 60-point lead over his teammate.
Yeah, John Hunter Nemechek is the bottom of full-time drivers, 34th in points.
He wouldn't be if Harrison Burton hadn't grabbed a random ass Daytona win.
You're right.
Like in terms of actual points, though, Harrison Burton has less. And here's a stat I saw. I think Harrison Burton has 50 points, not even 50 points or something like that, in 5 playoff races, and he's a playoff driver, right? Like that's just abysmal. Yeah, he's in the playoffs, and I'm for it. I'm for the win and get in. I'm for 36th place win and get in. I like that, but at the same time, we also know if you're 36th and winning and getting in, you're also getting eliminated in the first round because you're shitty.
Yep. Yeah. His finishes in the playoffs: 21st, he won Daytona. 1, 2, 3. Which
his best is 23rd.
Yeah, there we go. 31st at Atlanta, 24th at the Glen, 35th at Bristol, 23rd at Kansas, and 34th at Talladega. For some reason, I was thinking Daytona was still the cutoff, but it was Darlington.
Yeah.
Jones, 2 less starts than everybody else. He's still 30th in points. Our boy Daniel Hemrick coming in at 33rd. That was some news last week. I think it broke last week after we recorded. Ty Dillon's going to be racing for Colleague next year. Daniel Hemrick's done.
Yeah.
Ty Dillon once again getting into a ride somehow, some way. And you got anything else for these standings?
I guess obviously just Ty Gibbs. Currently, he and Truex are 16 points apart. We'll see how they fare. Going forward with the other guys who get eliminated before the championship round, but only one top 5 for both Truex and Gibbs in the playoffs. That's part of why they got eliminated in the first round, but even the second round hasn't gone much better. Fifth and a 13th for Gibbs, a 3rd and 11th, a little bit better for Truex. But they want better finishes. They want more stage points to push their way up the standings so they can try to get into the top 8 or 7th, 6th, 5th if possible, and it doesn't look like it's really happening for those guys right now.
It's also interesting here, looking a little bit further down in the point standings, the giant ass gaps between Bubba Wallace and Kyle Busch, and then Kyle Busch and Carson Hocevar. So Bubba Wallace is 19th in points, Kyle Busch is 20th, and Hocevar is 21st. There's a 105-point gap between Bubba Wallace and Kyle Busch, and then there's a 105-point gap between Kyle Busch and Carson Hocevar. Like, all these close races in points, but then you have, like, Kyle Busch on an island by himself separating, like, it's kind of like separating the good from the mediocre. Like, the above Kyle Busch is, like, really good. Kyle Busch has kind of had bad luck, but he's ran decent all year. And then, like, Hocevar is, like, typically about a 17th place car that could, like, has top 10 upside sometimes.
Yep.
Just interesting there.
Yeah, it really is. Other than that, I don't have anything else on, I guess, the point standings themselves. It's, it's a spot where we know Briscoe, Cindric, they probably have to win. Suarez probably has to win, maybe could points race if there's an early problem for one of these guys ahead of him. Logano potentially could points race, like you said, and then these guys right on the bubble probably need to points race. Larson and Bell can feel good, and Byron's in, so... as far as inside the playoffs, I think it's all relatively clear, other than maybe a couple drivers here and there, and what they need to do at the Roval. But looking ahead, right, we got Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville. That is going to be a round where, like you said, separating the men from the boys, that's going to be some real racing, right?
Right. Yep. But yeah, getting right into Charlotte Roval preview. One more road course. This is the last one of the season, I believe. And like I said, they made some changes to the track, including when they get on to the actual intermediate portion of the track, is basically a 90-degree hairpin turn, which the tweet of maybe not the year, but the tweet of my recent memory, when I actually physically laughed out loud when I saw this tweet. So it was a picture of the new turn, and I don't know who this person is. Brad Perez. Someone is going to get
Brad Perez. He's a truck, and I I think maybe he's run some Xfinity races, but he
Oh,
runs a
he is
few
NASCAR
one-off truck
driver.
races. Yeah.
Okay. Someone's going to get shipped first class priority Amazon Prime same day right here on a green white checkered. That just fucking cracked me up because this
Maybe
is
I
like
didn't understand the joke or something. I didn't get it.
someone's going to get fucking sent in that corner. So like they're going to wreck them.
Gotcha.
Chastain's going to
Yeah,
chastain them.
makes sense.
But this is kind of giving me Indy road course vibes a little bit. You know,
Yeah,
like
I could see that.
and what was it? Was it also Coda that has like a real sharp turn, or was
Yeah,
it?
the Coda has that sharp turn, the
Yeah,
hairpin there.
and
Trying to think of anything else. Yeah, it's pretty much just Coda. You know, Sonoma has that like it's not exact. It is a hairpin, but it's like a wider radius hairpin.
hmm yeah. But it, I'm I'm curious to see if this actually makes a difference in the race, or if it's being overblown. But definitely something to consider.
Hmm.
We've seen people get into each other, wrecking for the win at road courses before. It certainly wouldn't be that surprising to see anything like that.
No,
But
not at all.
when you look at the Charlotte Roval specifically, AJ Allmendinger won it last year.
Yep. Which I was very happy about because I bet him to win.
Before that, it was Christopher Bell in Victory Lane. Before that was Kyle Larson.
Yep.
As far as so this kind of surprised me when I was looking at it. We've had 6 races at the Charlotte Roval. Um, do you know who has the best average finish at this track?
Um,
Last I checked, he's sitting at plus 120 odds for a top 10.
I want to say like Blaney, but it's probably
Nope.
not him. Um, I don't know who.
So I'll give you a little hint. I'm actually kind of surprised by 2 of the people in the top 4, including I'm not super surprised by the first one, but again I am. So Reddick is second best at 7.0. Chase Elliott's at 8.2, and then Joey Logano 8.7. Joey Logano has been really good here.
Yeah.
Number 1, Alex Bowman. Bowman the showman has
Interesting.
never finished worse than 10th at Charlotte Roval.
Huh.
Which, like I
I mean,
said,
I
he's
knew
sitting
he's
there.
been good here. I just didn't know it was that good.
Yeah, and like the last 3 races that he started, he missed 2022. I forget why. Bottom half of the top 10, 8th, 10th, and 8th, but still, that's pretty solid. Like I said, sitting at plus 120 when odds open for top 10 on Bet365. But yeah, then we got Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, who's a 2-time winner here. Reddick hasn't won here yet, but solid. And yeah, I was a bit surprised to see Joey Logano is so good here. Um,
Yeah, I'm
five
surprised by
top
that too.
five top tens in 6 races. Finished 5th here last year. He was second in 2020. Led 27 laps from the pole in 2022. Hell,
I
we
do
could be
remember
talking
that. I do
about
remember that. I do remember that. Him leading from the pole there.
we could be talking about Joey Logano playing not really spoiler, but shaking things up a little bit and challenging for the win this week. I
Yep.
just think I don't know. This is the way odds are this week. I understand SVG's I think the favorite at every book, which by the way, I don't like that. He's in the 13 this week. Do we know how many times that 13 has had mechanical issues? Now it could
Uh,
be
has it had a mechanical issues like
just right at
pretty much
Watkins
every time?
Glen. Almendinger, yeah. Like I feel like it
I
has.
guess not.
I
I
know,
guess not this past weekend at Talladega, but yeah.
and I could be completely wrong, but I know for a fact it did at Watkins Glen, and I said
Yep.
it on our preview show. I said
Yeah.
I don't
I
trust
remember
that
that.
13 car, and then
I
it,
definitely
it, it
remember that.
could be it could be Allmendinger running the shit out of it. He runs a lot harder than SVG does, but I feel like the 13 car has issues a lot.
Yes,
Uh,
I would agree with that.
yeah, so Allmendinger in the 13 this year, 36th at Watkins Glen, 38th at the Chicago Street Course. He finished 6th at Coda in it.
Mm-hmm.
In 2023, it did not run any road courses.
No. Yeah, I don't like SVG running the 13. But who knows if they're swapping cars and things like that, right? It could be either giving Dinger the 13, just labeling a different number on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to say.
And are you surprised that SVG is the odds-on favorite heading into this week? I feel like there's a lot of value out there. By the way, I love Byron at 13-1.
I love Byron at 13-1 too. I'm 100% on that. Or will be, I think. I haven't done all my research yet because today was my day off. But once I dive in ahead of running hot, for sure, I will be almost certainly on Byron. Byron top 5, Byron top 3. I love those bets probably without even having to think about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I just feel like there's and I know he hasn't won in a while, but even Chase Elliott, I think I saw him at 17-1 somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Buescher lines have been actually nuked because he won Watkins Glen. But even Tyler Reddick, if you would have told me earlier this year, coming into this season, that we'd get Tyler Reddick at a road course at 12-1 before practice and qualifying, I would have said you're insane. But we're sitting there and he's available right now. We could bet Tyler Reddick 12-1.
Yeah. Problem is, of course, the points racing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, but I mean, Byron not points racing at 13 is unbelievable.
And it looks like he's at 11 now. So,
yeah.
I still like him at 11 though.
Yeah, I do too. I have no problem with 11-1.
And even Larson at 10-1. I see all this that I like, but I'm also I don't want to bet anything.
Right.
It's just one of those weeks. Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah, Byron's 12 at Bet365.
Mm-hmm.
So still 12 out there on Byron. I haven't checked Circa, but usually they're not up at this point in the week. But we'll see. I mean, Chris Buescher's 14 and he's not points racing. Oh, Circa is up. Let's see. William Byron's 8 at Circa, if that tells you anything you need to know there.
Yep.
Kyle Larson is 7 at Circa. If that tells you anything you need to know there.
Where do they have SVG and Allmendinger?
4.15 for SVG, 9.5 for Allmendinger.
Damn.
That's why Reddick Reddick's at 10 at Circa. Gibbs is 11. Blaney's 50. Truex is 18. We know Truex is points racing. Kyle Busch is 25. Denny Hamlin's 45. Joey Logano's 45. Suarez is 25. That's kind of interesting. Especially after Ross won, the Glen, right? Bell is 12, which I think is pretty interesting because he's kind of in that Larson boat. And Elliott is 14-1. So I think that's most of the main guys at Circa. Cindric's 40-1. And Briscoe is 60.
I'm curious your thoughts on Kyle Busch.
I'm not really on Kyle Busch. I know a lot of people have been loving him all of a sudden. He's been randomly getting favorite treatment at some of these books for some of these races, and I don't understand it. I don't see it. He's been fine at the road courses this year, but he's not really been leading at the road courses or dominating. He's just been kind of running near the front. But not that far front even. So it's just one of those things where I'm not really there on him at 25-1. Let me pull up Kyle Busch's stats here because I think we talked about this for Watkins Glen. I think we talked about Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has 0 laps led at road courses this year. 0.
Yep.
He led.
He led a lap at Sonoma.
I'm showing 0.
I'm seeing 1.
I'm going to pull up Racing Reference. Let me pull it up. He finished 12th in that race?
Yep.
12th, Kyle Busch. Yeah, 1 lap led. They must have changed the box score.
Mm-hmm. It was probably like on some pit cycle or something weird.
No. I'm saying they must have changed the box score because I get all my stats from Racing Reference I literally just pull it right in. Yeah, I'm seeing 0. If you click on Loop Data Stats at Racing Reference, it shows 0 laps led for Kyle Busch. So
That's
their
funny.
own data is inconsistent with each other. If you're just on the main race results, it shows 1, and if you go to the Loop Data Stats, it shows 0. And I always pull the Loop Data Stats.
That is not the most NASCAR thing ever, right there.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So either way, he's at most led 1 lap this year, but that doesn't really change the point. He's led 1 lap this year, which doesn't show me you're running very well. His average running position at best in any of these was a 10th place average running position. So yeah, he has finishes of 9th, 12th, and 9th, but that's not really anybody that's contending for a win.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, and I remember having that discussion at Watkins Glen too, because I have it stuck in my head that he's really fast at road courses, but none of the data really points to that. He's good.
I think people are remembering Sonoma and Coda from last year, but that's last year. That's last year.
Yeah. And, his last 3 races here at the Charlotte Roval, 3rd, 3rd, and 4th. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, he's been good here. He's sitting at 25-1, Yeah, maybe I can, justify it.
I would justify a top 5 bet instead of a 25-1 win bet because that's what he's shown. He's only kind of capable of a top 5 right now.
Yep, absolutely agree with that. You have any love for some of these super long shots out there? And so going back to
playoff drivers, I mean Cindric, Briscoe, Suarez.
Absolutely, like Briscoe's sitting there, 60-1
at Circa? Yeah, I think elsewhere 45. What is he at? 40 at Bet365. So it looks like 45 is the longest aside from Circa. Oh yeah, there's a 60 at BetMGM. Okay, 60 at BetMGM. Cindric 37 is the best out there, other than the 40 at Circa, and Suarez 30 is the best out there. It was actually better than Circa, which has him at 25. So I don't mind those 3. I just, again, it's like you're kind of just hoping.
Right.
Suarez, I think I could bet at 30 at BetMGM.
I'm going to have to, I'm with you. He's qualified 3rd the last 2 races here. Finishes of 33rd and 36th. I'm pulling up iFantasy Race right now to see what happened.
I remember one of them, he had some kind of incident, and
he's finished top 6 in 3 of the last 4 stages. So
yeah. I think I might like Suarez, especially with Ross coming off that win at Glen. Let's see. Who else ran really well at Watkins Glen? That might have surprised me. Pull it up here. We have
2022 Suarez lost power steering, and last year he got wrecked by Christopher Bell.
Yep. LaJoie he ran well at the Glen, but he also kind of fluked his way into that a little bit with strategy. There's some weird strategy stuff that happened at Glen. There was also that late caution, etc. Let's see. Yeah, similar with Zane Smith, but Briscoe ran pretty well. He had
Michael McDowell had a really good race.
10th place. Yeah, but I mean, he's not a long shot, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You're asking about long shots. I'm trying to name. Briscoe ran an average running position inside the top 8 drivers.
What about Hocevar?
No.
Did he benefit from?
He benefited from stuff, and he
had a good car because that was the race that he fucked up qualifying by missing the one turn. Remember? But he actually had a really good car.
He still didn't run that well, is what I'm saying. Like, if he didn't look good in practice, I remember that. He really fell off hard on the long run, I think it was, or something. I remember doing flags and Hocevar. I was just like, ugh. He had a very good short run car, but he wasn't very good over and wasn't very consistent. But his average running position was the, let's see, 9th best, I believe it was. I don't have it pulled up on the exact decimal point. And then, like I said, Chase Briscoe is 6th or 5th best average running position. So, I think I don't think I could get there in Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar is not a good road course racer in general. Like, he's never really done anything in trucks. He hasn't really done anything in Cup, other than that one race. And I think it was a little more fluky than it looks based off his finish.
Mm-hmm. McDowell's sitting at 22-1. I don't hate that. There's just so much.
I don't hate that.
I
That's the problem, sorting through all these guys that we like, right? But right. I think for me, it's Byron. Like, Byron's been so good at the Roval, and I know it's a different Roval now. Like, I know we got that new turn and the kind of different ending towards the infield part of it, but at the same time, a lot of it is still the same.
Yeah. Yeah, second here last year. I mean, before next gen, he had 3 straight races where he led at least 23 laps here. The problem with trying to figure out who's had the best speed on road courses this season is, Coda was a solid road course race. Sonoma kind of got a little weird there at the end with fuel strategy, but for the most part was a normal road course race. But then Chicago Street Course, that certainly wasn't a normal race. Watkins Glen was not a normal road course race by any means. With those timely cautions, or untimely, however you want to say it.
Yeah, no, Hocevar was not good in practice at all at the Glen. He was dead last in practice.
Was he?
Yeah, he was dead last in practice. He only ran 14 laps. I think something happened to him. But even of his just single fastest lap, he was dead last.
Okay.
Which came on lap 2, and a whole bunch of other people had their best laps on lap 2, right? Because we had the super tire wear. Tires in practice, they're falling off 3 seconds. Hocevar just wasn't good. He just wasn't good.
Yeah.
And then he was much better in the race, don't get me wrong, but he kind of fluked his way into the top 10, I think, with some strategy stuff. I know his like pretty well. Yeah, even early on in the race, though, like, I think he took some track position, then just kind of maintained it. So that's why his average running position looks better than I think his actual like speed was.
That makes sense. Am I missing? So, is this the 5th road course race of the year or the 6th?
5th. We didn't have 6th this year. We replaced
Indy.
We replaced Indy with something else. Oh, the Brickyard.
Indy. Yeah.
We replaced Indy with Indy.
Yeah. Oh man. But going back to my point, 2 of the 4 this year have been, questionable as far as being able to pull who's good here. So, and obviously we haven't raced at Chicago or at Charlotte Roval.
Chair is creaky.
Oh yeah, I need to get some WD-40 on this bitch. But we haven't raced on the Charlotte Roval in a year, so it's gonna be interesting this week. I think they're doing 2 groups of practice if I remember right. I know Parker's tweeted it out. Practice and qualifying is at 12:30 on Saturday.
Yep.
But overall, I figured they might do one big session just because of the track changes, but
yeah.
Switching things up a little bit. Something we forgot to touch on after news broke last week. Lawsuit 2311 and Front Motorsports.
Yep. Good on
are
there.
suing NASCAR. Yeah. What do we think about that? I am curious to see how this plays out in court because I think there's a lot of stuff that NASCAR doesn't want people to know, and 2311 is not going to back down. But also, I don't think NASCAR is going to back down.
I think NASCAR will back down and end up settling. I don't think this will go to where NASCAR wants some of the stuff released. You know, they've always kept their books hidden, especially in this era. And so I think this ends up in a settlement. That would be my prediction. But 2311 and Front Row Motorsports are definitely not backing down. And now you're kind of seeing some of the other owners saying, like, yeah, we were kind of bullied into it, but
they're all speaking
on
the
by the fact that you could tell by the fact that they're talking about it, saying they were kind of, we had to sign this last minute or we lose our charter. They're validating 2311 and Front Row Motorsports case.
Yeah, it's and also, like, you know, another one of these situations where you really notice how much the NASCAR media will defend the mothership.
Well, God, and that whole Sirius XM radio interview thing with whoever it was, and they cut it out and all that shit, and then finally uploaded it back.
They added it,
yeah. It's
and at the end of the day,
it's state-controlled media essentially. Just NASCAR is the state.
Yeah, and I understand why these people do it, but man, grow a backbone and just. Yep.
Yeah, not a good look there. Not at all.
Yeah, so practice is at 12:30 on Saturday. 2 20-minute sessions for each group.
But yeah, I mean, this lawsuit's huge. It has the potential. I mean, it will change the face of NASCAR. I don't think it has the potential to. I think it will change the face of NASCAR. It's just in what way in the end.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, you know, I think it could shake things up in a big way, depending on how the ruling comes. Because if they rule in the favor of NASCAR, I could see 2311 closing up shop.
Yep. But they're not going to rule in favor of NASCAR. Like, 2311's not bringing up this lawsuit without absolutely knowing they're getting something out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Their lawyer has even said, like, of all the antitrust cases I've seen in any sport, this is the most antitrust of them all, right? Like, this is the, I would say, slam dunk case of them all, as far as that lawyer is concerned. And he's not going to be one that, yeah, maybe he's going to say things that obviously are meant to help his clients, but he's also not saying that and putting his own reputation on the line to not have it be true.
Yeah. I think you're right, though. I think it's going to just be settled. And
it also has pretty far-reaching implications outside of that, right? Because IndyCar just signed their first ever charter system deal a month ago. So is IndyCar keeping an eye on that and things like that? So it's very interesting to see how this all plays out. But you got to think there will be a little bit more for the teams in NASCAR going forward, which I think is sorely needed because we see teams folding left and right and kind of just getting run out of the sport. And people are like, well, I've seen these absolutely ludicrous takes. How about the one from fucking McGee who was like, no lawsuits during a hurricane? Like, what are you talking about, dude? Time is of the essence. But also there's these takes of people being like, well, they haven't been in the sport long enough. Are you fucking kidding me? Denny Hamlin himself has been in the sport for 25 years.
Yeah, like, and actually that's what this sport needs, because you need the guys that have new ideas and are going to change things, because guys like Penske, guys like Hendrick, all those old guys, they don't care. They've made their money. They're not going to buck this system. They're just going to go with it. And that's why they all signed it. That's why these younger up-and-coming teams are the ones that are like, hey, let's change this while we can, while we have the upper hand too. And I think it's going to be good for the sport. I did notice Kyle Larson had a soundbite basically saying that NASCAR is the only professional sport where salaries of the actual athletes has gone down over the last however many years. I think he said like 20 years or something. But that's just like noteworthy. Like,
Yeah.
NASCAR signing these massive, massive TV deals, and it seems like it's all staying at the top. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of money to be staying at the top for them to be fucking inconsistent as shit and make all these bad calls. If you're gonna make that much money, at least be good.
Yeah. Can we just go back to that McGee thing? I tweeted it out. I was like, I've seen people who have every possible opinion, this, that, or the other, of NASCAR. I've seen people who vehemently disagree with each other on NASCAR Twitter. They all were in agreement about McGee's article just being a crock of shit.
And honestly, it had to be. He was told to write that for the clicks, right? There's nothing else. That can't be his actual take, right? Like, I want to have.
I don't know.
I want to have hope. That is the most ludicrous. I've said some stupid shit. I've died on stupid hills. That is the dumbest thing. I couldn't believe it. And I hate that I actually gave him the click and I read it. But oh my god, man, that was a swing and a miss by him for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, that's my de facto like whine about it for this week, right? Like, and then I saw your tweet too. You're like, why aren't you going and helping? I know you already did, but instead of sitting here writing an article, why aren't you doing more?
Yeah, like, and it's true because that was his whole point. Was like, instead of doing a lawsuit, they could help. 2311 donated $1 million to disaster relief.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's and what you think 23? You think Michael Jordan's going to get out there and fucking sling cases of water? Like, what are you talking about? Like, come on.
They can file a lawsuit and there still can be help that is provided to, and help is absolutely definitely needed. The victims of Hurricane, was it Helene? And absolutely the best thing people could do is help, but that doesn't mean the rest of life doesn't go on either.
Yeah, and this lawsuit, like, you have a time window that you need to get this in, and it's just pathetic.
Before the start of next season. I mean, this is just filing the case, right? Like, to get it all completed and or at least get an injunction so you can compete next season under the current charter agreement instead of the new charter agreement, that kind of stuff, or an injunction under the new charter agreement, whatever it is. That all stuff still takes time and has to run through the court system. It doesn't just happen like that, so you have to start it as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's funny, it got what's it called?
Oh yeah, community noted.
Community noted. Yeah, basically saying like, okay, you fucking idiot, like this had to be done now.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Ryan McGee for I guess getting your clicks and making ESPN some ad money. But God, just how ridiculous.
Yeah. So dumb.
For your de facto whine about it, I'm gonna have my whine about it. Shout out RotoBaller Winery as always.
Yes.
I don't even know all of the people getting towed, people getting out of the race. I feel like this isn't being made a big enough deal. The red flag being lifted, but the pace car not moving, so teams could work on their cars but not lose a lap because there was no movement going on. There's no laps being put on the track. What are we doing? Like, I still don't understand why the red flag was lifted and not just put back out. And Elton Sawyer had some stupid ass response to where they didn't want to look like idiots and put it back under red. But they really need to. And I know, like, this is a big point that people's made. Like, what if this whole tire thing and getting towed determines a champion, which I don't see it happening, because if a championship contender spins out at Phoenix, blows all of his tires, getting towed back to pit road is probably going to kill his race car, and he's not going to win it anyway.
Right.
Like, I don't like that argument of it. But the fact of the matter is, NASCAR's inconsistencies with who they towed, and everything that they did after that giant wreck at Talladega. I mean, when you have that big of a wreck, and if you're able to complete just one more lap, you're potentially moving 20 positions up. Like, this is a massive difference for these playoff drivers. And I don't feel like this is getting made a big enough deal by people. Maybe I'm missing it, but this is like, maybe we're all just fucking used to it. But
this also was an absolutely exceptional circumstance, right? The largest wreck in NASCAR history, and you've got a parking lot out there beyond
keep it red flagged.
Anything we've ever seen. Yeah, I agree with that. Now, honestly, I missed all of it, right? So I had my live betting show, Bet What Happens Live, at halftime of the 4 p.m. Eastern window of NFL games. Literally, we're on our Zoom call waiting for halftime to come on those games, and the monster wreck happens, I shit you not, like 2 or 3 minutes before Bet What Happens Live goes live. We do Bet What Happens Live. It ends, and they throw the green flag, basically. So I had the perfect, like, 30-minute window of a show or 45-minute window of a show that was during that red flag. So I actually don't even know what happened with all of that. But I do know it had something to do with getting cars started again. There was a yellow thrown too early, maybe not. But there needs to be a well-defined protocol because, you know, first of all, how do you choose which of the 28 cars gets restarted first and in what order? And then I guess if it's all done on a red flag, then you should make sure they're all restarted so that nobody is penalized unfairly. But what if they had just left a yellow flag out and there's 5 cars that need restarting? How do you determine the order there, right? It's like, I don't know if there is a well-defined protocol for that. Is who do you get to first? I don't know. But yeah, I can definitely see where it's infuriating, especially for potentially some playoff drivers who could lose 5, 10, 15 points out of that. But yeah, I didn't really get the gist of all of it because I was super distracted in that exact time window.
Right. And I think even me sitting there watching it, I didn't even know how to correctly clear it up. Because like you said, it was a massive mess. But I think the biggest thing to me was I don't understand why they lifted the red flag, went to yellow, but there were still I think 5 cars dead on the backstretch, or needed towed, but that could still get back in the race while they were under caution, but the pace car wasn't moving. Like, I've never seen them have a caution where the pace car wasn't moving. It was like, what is going on and why? And like I said, I don't think people are making a big enough deal about it because it could have easily, like, Logano finished 33rd. He could have probably couldn't have. He was out. But, like, you get my point. Like, this was just a major thing. And I understand it's unprecedented, but the amount of times, I mean, hell, just last week at Kansas, Josh Berry spun out and was dead, and they wouldn't even give him a chance. And then this week, they're towing people. They're pushing Chase Elliott back to pit road when his car is absolutely destroyed. Like, it's the inconsistencies are the only consistent thing with NASCAR, as always.
Exactly. Yep.
But you have anything else for? I know we got off on a little tangent there, but as always, shout out to RotoBaller Winery for sponsoring this podcast. Same thing with the Brew Kettle. But do you have anything else for the Charlotte Roval?
I do not.
Alex Bowman sitting there for plus 120 for a top 10. I just really like that heading into the race weekend. But like I said, I'm not loving betting. Chris Buescher, unfortunately, his top 10 odds nuked after winning Watkins Glen. He's sitting at minus 139 on Bet Rivers right now. Anybody looking to bet Chris Buescher, like, I mean, if you listen to any of our shows, me and Nick are always on Chris Buescher at road courses. The guy's a top 10 machine at these. I think in the next gen, he's finished like 11th or better every single time. Maybe like 1 or 2 races he hasn't, but he never qualifies well. So if you're looking to bet Buescher this week for top 10, wait until after qualifying, because he's probably going to qualify mid-pack, and you'll get better odds then. So Just shout
Yep.
out there. But moving on to our picks to win. Let me pull up the spreadsheet quick. I know I had Alfredo last week, so I jinxed the fuck out of him.
You sure did. I had Suarez, didn't I?
You did. Yep. And
I got jinxed. I got jinxed before the green flag even flew.
Gosh. Yeah, Doc blocked his back.
Yeah, it's a thing.
All right. All right. Yeah, I had Alfredo. You had Suarez. I'm going first this week.
Yes, you are.
Let's see. Yeah, this is tough. I don't have a good handle on it yet, but I'm gonna go. Give me Christopher Bell.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm going Bell.
I don't mind it. Definitely don't mind it. Especially if, once stage one ends and he's essentially locked in, he can go for the win for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I am going Willie B.
That's who I was gonna go, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to jinx him because I think I'm gonna bet him.
To me, he's the best. Like, he finished second to the Roval last year. In 2022, he finished 16th, but was probably on his way to win it except he got punted, I believe, by Tyler Reddick with a couple laps ago. No, maybe that was a different race. That was the year before. But yeah, he led the most laps in 2021. He led the most laps in 2020. Finished 6th in 2019. He's really darn good at the Roval, and I know the Roval's a different shape this year. A little bit different at the end. But, I mean, he's still going to be good here. He's got his win in the bag. He can go, or not win the bag, but he's clinched. So he can go for a win, try to get some extra playoff points. William Byron, my pick to win.
It's a great pick. Great pick. Yeah. I think I'm gonna bet him 11-1. I'm mad at myself I didn't get 13, but I think he's gonna qualify well, and I think those odds are gonna go down. So I'm gonna grab Willie B probably after this podcast. But
I think so too.
36 for 36. I tweeted it out the other day. It is heating up.
Yep, sure is.
You grab that win with Stenhouse. You also got some stage points. So you grabbed 49 points. I didn't have an awful day with Zane Smith. 16 points out of him. I'll take that at a super
His
speedway.
season average is 14.3, so yeah, pretty good there.
But obviously, you hit a big hit there with Stenhouse. Over the last 4 races, you've scored 92 points. I have scored 54. So you're closing that gap quick. We got 5 races left. You're down 30 points. Whew. I'm going first. You know who I'm going with. I hate that. Oh man, I'm gonna hate him even more if he blows a brake rotor like lap 2, and because I could just see it happening. But AJ Allmendinger is my guy for the Roval. I think I know who you're going with as well.
There's only one guy I can go with, and that is Chase Elliott. I actually really like Chase Elliott's deal here because he's points racing, so I'm gonna get stage points probably.
Yep.
And then he could still finish well, especially if there's a caution in stage 3. So I actually really like my position here by being able to grab Chase Elliott for this one, knowing he's probably got a points race, and your boy Allmendinger may have to forego stage points to be on the winning strategy here. So it gets interesting for sure.
So for those keeping track or not being able to keep track or don't follow us on Twitter or didn't see it, remaining drivers. So I have Allmendinger this week. Nick has Chase Elliott. As far as the remaining drivers after that, I have Christopher Bell, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Ty Gibbs. And Nick has Josh Berry, Kyle Larson, Noah Gregson, and Ryan Blaney.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the last 4 remaining for each of us in the final
I will
4
say
races.
you definitely have an advantage on the drivers left. If we count this week, your points per race for these car numbers that you have, right? The 16 is different guys, but points per race for these car numbers is 133 for your 5 drivers, 133.3. My points per race for my 5 drivers is 125.4. So you have like an 8-point advantage on rest of season average points remaining. And you're also up not only 30 points, but you're up 38 in average points this season. So you're up 38 and have an 8-point advantage. So really you're up more like 46, even though you're only up 30 because of just how each driver has done versus their average this year. And then the drivers left. You're actually more effectively up 46 points, even though you're up 30.
But just like I had Larson at Kansas and he got me 11 points, all it takes is one issue. And
I do feel like I have the perfect set of drivers, though, for their tracks. So I feel like I might have a slight advantage on, like, track matching, right? Like, I get Larson at Homestead. To me, that's huge 60-point day potential, right? So I have, I feel like I have a better fit in terms of matching the drivers with their tracks. Whereas I think you just have better overall cars remaining in general.
yeah, I don't know. I'm liking mine as well.
Oh yeah, no, yours are good, for sure. I just think like the way mine match their specific tracks, like Josh Berry at Martinsville is a perfect match, right? Like I wouldn't take Josh Berry pretty much anywhere else except Martinsville.
Oh,
if I had to pick his best track, I would take Martinsville.
He got me 1 point at Gateway. Fuck Josh Berry.
Yep.
I guess, well, so I got 3 points out of Gregson at Bristol. So SHR didn't really treat me well, but then I had Briscoe at Darlington, so that turned out decent. When did I use Priest? Oh, I used Priest at Martinsville, got 28 out of him. So,
all right. So one other way of looking at this, you have 607 among the drivers we have both used. You have 678 points with them. I have. Let me look. I just need to click on them. 603. So yeah, you're man, is that right? I must have clicked an extra one. But I have 603 among the drivers we have both used. Let me do yours one more time just to make sure I didn't screw that up. 603. All right, I'm not counting those. That's good. Yeah, and 678. So you're 75 ahead looking at same drivers.
Where you can potentially gain a ton of points is Larson, because I got 11, and you know he could get 64, and then Gregson as well because I got 3.
Yeah, I'm doing much better on different drivers. If we look at the ones you picked that I haven't yet, obviously it's going to be much different. You have 79, and I have 124. So 45 or so my way there.
Yeah, it's nowhere near over yet. I still. Where would you put the odds?
Last week I said minus 1,000, remember? And then I was joking about how minus 1,000 I already lost with my Busher bet. It's probably like minus 800 now. I definitely gained, but you're still pretty heavily favored.
All it takes is Allmendinger blowing a break at the Roval, just like he did in Watkins
Elliott
Glen.
getting near max stage points, and something happening in stage 3 and driving back up into the top 5 for a 50-point day.
Man,
I could be in the lead after this race.
You could. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Would not surprise me at all. This is a fun game.
I think you said I gained. I think you said I gained 52 points. Yeah, 52 points over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. You know what I'd like to do next year with this?
What?
I'd like to do where we both fill it out before the season, and then we also do one where we
In
do it every
season,
week.
yeah.
And see which one we do better. That'd be fun.
And our filling out one is obviously blind. Like we're making these picks on air during the podcast, but we should just like send it to each other right before the season starts at Daytona, without talking about it or whatever.
Yeah, we'll have to do that next year.
It's a fun and we'll probably try to have one with
everybody.
Figure out one to do with Stacking Dennys listeners, because I think I know people have been asking about that.
Yeah, we'll get something set up
for sure.
But race number 32 of the season is this weekend, Charlotte Roval. We'll be back next week to talk about Vegas. I will be in Vegas. I'm excited. It's been a while since I've been in Vegas. I'm going to go to the race. It's going to be awesome.
Fun. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hopefully get a swing by and see you.
Yep.
And, yeah. All right. Enjoy the Charlotte Roval this weekend. And we'll be back next week. See you guys.